Dr. Ethan Cole boarded the late-night train from New York City to Boston, carrying with him a sense of exhaustion that only a surgeon could understand. His day had been grueling: 3 surgeries back-to-back, endless paperwork, and an upcoming conference he wasn't particularly excited about. The dimly lit train car was almost empty, save for a few scattered passengers absorbed in their own worlds. Ethan sank into a corner seat, opened his laptop, and began reviewing his presentation. The rhythmic clatter of the train was oddly soothing, and he felt himself slipping into a trance of focus. But his concentration was interrupted when someone sat down across from him. Looking up, he found an older man with silver hair, deep-set eyes, and an air of quiet authority. The man gave him a polite nod and introduced himself. "Victor Hargrove. Mind if I sit here?" "Not at all," Ethan replied, slightly annoyed but too tired to protest. For a while, they sat in silence. Ethan returned to his laptop, hoping Victor would take the hint. Instead, the older man broke the quiet with a calm but assertive voice. "You're a doctor, aren't you?" Ethan frowned, glancing at his bag where his name badge peeked out. "Yes, I am. How did you?" "Lucky guess," Victor said with a cryptic smile. "You're on your way to Boston for a medical conference, correct?" Ethan's unease grew. "That's right," he said cautiously. "Why do you ask?" Victor leaned forward, his expression serious. "Because I need to warn you. When you arrive in Boston, don't attend the conference. Leave the city immediately." Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me? What are you talking about?" "I can't explain everything now, but trust me, your life depends on it," Victor said, his voice low but urgent. "If you go to that conference, something terrible will happen." Ethan stared at the man, unsure whether to laugh, be angry, or call for help. "Look, I don't know who you are or what this is about, but I'm not canceling my plans based on a cryptic warning from a stranger." Victor's eyes softened, as if he expected the reaction. "I understand. But remember my words when the time comes. Sometimes, destiny gives us a choice to change its course." Before Ethan could respond, Victor stood up and moved to another seat farther down the car. Shaking his head, Ethan dismissed the encounter as the ramblings of an eccentric old man and returned to his laptop. But Victor's words lingered, a faint echo in the back of his mind. As the train pulled into Boston hours later, Ethan pushed the encounter out of his thoughts, determined to focus on his work. Yet, as he checked into his hotel and prepared for the next day, a strange sense of foreboding settled over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger's warning might not have been so far-fetched after all. The morning of the conference dawned cold and crisp. Ethan dressed in his finest suit, trying to shake off the unease from the previous night. As he arrived at the Grand Convention Center, bustling with renowned doctors and researchers, he reminded himself that Victor's warning was nonsense. The keynote address began without incident. Ethan listened attentively, jotting down notes and occasionally exchanging pleasantries with colleagues. Yet a nagging feeling persisted, a whisper of doubt he couldn't ignore. During a break, Ethan stepped outside to get some fresh air. As he sipped his coffee, he noticed a commotion at the far end of the plaza. A group of security personnel rushed past, followed by the wail of sirens. His phone buzzed in his pocket. "Dr. Cole?" came the voice on the other end. It was a nurse from his hospital, her tone frantic. "We need you back immediately. There's been an emergency." "What happened?" Ethan asked, his heart pounding. "It's a mass casualty event. A gas leak caused an explosion at the conference center. Hundreds are injured." Ethan froze, the coffee slipping from his hands and shattering on the pavement. The conference center was just behind him, but he had stepped outside moments before the disaster. His mind raced back to Victor's words, "Don't attend the conference. Leave the city immediately." He turned and saw smoke billowing from the building. People were running, screaming, their faces pale with fear. He couldn't believe it. Victor's warning had come true. Shaking himself out of his stupor, Ethan sprinted toward the chaos. His training kicked in and he began assisting the injured, his instincts taking over. Hours passed in a blur of triage, bandages, and desperate attempts to save lives. As night fell, the scene finally began to quiet down. Exhausted, Ethan sat on the curb, his hands stained with blood and soot. The weight of the day pressed heavily on him. He thought of Victor's warning and the uncanny accuracy of his prediction. Who was this man, and how had he known? As Ethan's mind swirled with questions, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was an unknown number. Hesitant, he answered. "Dr. Cole," the voice said. It was Victor. "I told you not to go." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "How did you know?" Victor's response was calm but chilling. "Because your destiny is intertwined with something far greater than you realize." But this is only the beginning. Before Ethan could ask anything more, the line went dead. The days following the explosion were a whirlwind of media coverage, hospital shifts, and countless unanswered questions. Ethan threw himself into his work, trying to drown out the unsettling encounter with Victor and the lingering guilt of having narrowly escaped disaster. Yet, every time he closed his eyes, he saw the chaos, the injured, and Victor's cryptic words. A week later, Ethan received a package at his hospital office. There was no return address, just his name written in elegant script. Inside, he found an old leather-bound book and a single note that read, "The answers lie within. Trust no one." The book was filled with intricate diagrams, ancient symbols, and handwritten notes in a language Ethan couldn't decipher. But as he flipped through the pages, he noticed something chilling, a detailed account of the conference explosion, written as if it had been known long before it happened. His name appeared in the text, alongside phrases like "the chosen" and "guardian of the path." Confused and overwhelmed, Ethan decided to contact the authorities, but when he called the number for the package's delivery service, he was told no such package had been sent. Determined to uncover the truth, he sought out experts in ancient texts and symbols. One name kept appearing in his search: Victor Hargrove. Tracking Victor down wasn't easy, but Ethan eventually found him living in a secluded cabin in upstate New York. Confronting Victor, he demanded answers. "Who are you? Why did you warn me? And what is this book?" Victor's expression was a mix of sympathy and resolve. "Dr. Cole, you're part of something much larger than you can imagine. That book is a guide, a map to prevent catastrophes that could alter the fate of humanity. You've been chosen to play a role in this." Ethan's skepticism was evident. "Why me? I'm just a surgeon." Victor smiled faintly. "A surgeon who saved dozens of lives that day. A surgeon whose instincts and compassion make him the perfect guardian. The explosion was just the beginning. There are greater challenges ahead, and you must be prepared." Ethan felt the weight of Victor's words but couldn't fully accept them. "I didn't sign up for this," he said, his voice trembling. "None of us did," Victor replied. "But destiny doesn't wait for consent. It finds us, whether we're ready or not." As Ethan left the cabin, the leather-bound book tucked under his arm, he knew his life had irrevocably changed. The stranger on the train was no longer a mystery. He was a guide to a path Ethan hadn't chosen but could no longer avoid. And as the sun set behind the trees, Ethan realized that his destiny was no longer his own.